Our study shows that there will be at least 500 million, if not more, users of open finance by 2030 in India. And that number is going to grow even further as smartphone usage grows up, the GDP per capita grows in India, and so on and so forth. You've been researching this in India, Brazil, Ghana, and Nigeria. Can you tell us what you've learned and what do you think is the future of open finance in these scenarios?
20% of the Indian adult population is already adopting open finance. I think that maybe it could not very easily, but my expectation is actually that it could replicate UPI in terms of adoption. So it could get to this 40% very easily.
There are about 800 odd financial institutions connected to Account Aggregator ecosystem, and that number is going to grow even further as smartphone usage grows up, the GDP per capita grows in India, and so on and so forth. So extremely bullish about open finance in India, and that's the base on which Sahamati Labs was built. Where do you think open finance's ecosystems are going to thrive? In which countries do you think it'll really take off? Hello and welcome to another episode of Manthan, Sahamati's podcast series, which brings in insights from industry leaders from India and around the world, specializing in finance. Today's episode is about innovation in the financial ecosystems, specifically in open finance and newer technologies that are evolving. I'm your host today. I'm Kiran Gopinath, Head Sahamati Labs and Chief Innovation Officer of Sahamati. Joining me today is Gabriel Bizama, Head Research at Sahamati Labs and a researcher with the University of Bern in Switzerland. Happy to have you here, Gabriel.
Dhanyavad, Kiran. Really excited to be here and to talk about open finance, financial inclusion, payments, all about Sahamati and the work that we are doing at the labs.
Fantastic. So you're doing some amazing research in CBDCs and fast payment systems globally. And if I'm not wrong, you've been researching this in India, Brazil, Ghana, and Nigeria. Can you tell us what you've learned and what do you think is the future of open finance in these scenarios?
Yeah, that is a really good question. I think that one challenge in emerging economies, not only in the countries that you mentioned, but also in most emerging economies, is the informal economy. So you have a lot of individuals and businesses, small businesses, that they struggle to open an account or eventually to make a payment digitally or access to credit. So I think that open finance has this potential of bringing more people into the formal economy, specifically on credit, and this is consumer credit, but also SME lending. And also insurance, and it could be also saving products. So it's really nice to see data in terms of how people are accessing the capital markets. So basically, there is a lot of potential on this.
So if you were to compare, what's your opinion about whether CBDCs and fast payments can coexist?
Well, that is a great question. To be honest, I think that a CBDC could complement a fast payment system, a very well-adopted fast payment system. That is the case, for example, with UPI. If you look at the data of UPI, the adoption data, you have almost 40% of the adult population in India that is a monthly active user of UPI, but you still have 600 million adults that actually they're not using in a regular basis UPI. So a well-designed CBDC, the rupee, can complement UPI and can also help transitioning India to a cashless economy. That we all know that this is one of the visions of the government. The other potential benefit of a CBDC is to foster competition. So actually, that could reduce the cost of merchant payments acceptance. Could also reduce the cost of credit. So in terms of credit, there is also potential benefits. But it could also, in a sense, reduce the cost of infrastructure it's required in order to accept the payment. So you may be familiar with a sandbox. Basically, all the street vendors and merchants that they have a sandbox that actually they hear a voice alert every time that they get a payment. That is also very important for fraud mitigation. So I think that one of the things that data is telling is that infrastructure could be a little bit expensive. So if you have, again, different kind of solutions, again, UPI, CBDCs, you will have more players, more financial entities offering these kind of devices, and the cost will reduce. One of the things that is very important as well is interoperability. So we need to make sure that if we are putting in place a new infrastructure, that then it works with the current infrastructure. So if I have a CBDC wallet with an e-rupee, it's very important that I can make a payment with a UPI merchant's device. So actually, one thing is talking to the other, and that would apply also to open finance. So I think that all infrastructures, they need to be speaking to each other, and that is very important, just to make sure that you don't have closed loops. You have open systems where actually everything works.
Great. And when you chose these 4 countries for your research, India, Brazil, Ghana, and Nigeria, why did you choose these 4 countries?
That is also a very good question. I think that my research question was, what is the value proposition of a CBDC if a country already has a well adopted and advanced fast payment system? So actually, what are the most adopted fast payment systems in the world? One is UPI here in India, then Pix in Brazil, and then mobile money in Africa. I would say Ghana. Nigeria is a very unique country. But what I was trying to understand is, well, if you have already a well adopted and developed fast payment system, what is the value proposition of a CBDC? All these countries are also exploring the possibility of issuing a CBDC. So in India, you have the RBI working on the rupee. In Brazil, you have the Central Bank of Brazil working on the DREX. In Nigeria, it's one of the few countries that they already implement the CBDC. So I've been in Nigeria in 2024, and people were paying in a local market. They were paying with a CBDC wallet with the Naira. That was mind blowing for me. And then you have Ghana, that actually you have like a very well adopted mobile money ecosystem, but actually the Central Bank of Ghana, the Bank of Ghana, is also exploring the possibility of issuing an e-city, which is a CBDC. Depending on the country, you will see what are the policy motivations of these central banks. That would depend a lot on the local context. But mainly in emerging economies, what you can see is actually central banks are experiencing CBDCs because of, first of all, financial inclusion, so financial access and usage, and secondly, payments efficiency. So basically, cost and cost and security. So those are the main policy motivations. But again, if you have a very well advanced fast payment systems, do you really need a CBDC? That is the question that I was trying to answer. My research is empirical, so actually what I was trying to do is to gather demand side data. So actually speaking with people. So in each of the countries, I have done a survey of a sample of 1,000 adults and merchants, and then complementing the quantitative data with qualitative data. So doing focus groups also in rural, semi-urban, urban areas. So again, what I was trying to understand is what is working well, what is not working well, for example, with UPI, and whether any rupee can address the challenges, the shortcomings of UPI.
Fantastic. So I heard this. I don't know how true it is, but the cost of printing currencies, fiat currencies, is higher than that of the digital currencies, and therefore it makes more sense to go digital. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that is a really interesting point. There is some literature basically that is trying to quantify what is the cost of printing money, uh, and what could be the savings for a central bank to go digital. Uh, but then you also need to consider how you need also resources, human and financial resources, in order to maintain the system. So that is something that actually with digital cash brings also other kind of considerations in terms of cost. But yeah, this is something that actually, for example, in the Caribbean or in countries where actually um, they have islands, for example, the distribution of cash is also very expensive, and sometimes is not feasible because maybe you are in a climate disaster, an earthquake or whatever, and basically it's very difficult to distribute cash to these remote areas. So there, a CBDC having digital cash issued by central bank, because a CBDC, one of the most important features is actually central bank money. It's not like commercial money. It's not private issued money. So a CBDC could help as well in terms of the distribution of central bank money. So yeah.
So the only thing that you need to ensure is connectivity to the internet at all possible all times.
Well, that is a very yeah, it's a really good point. The data what is telling is actually connectivity is one of the main shortcomings of the fast payment systems. So in order to make a payment with UPI, for example, I need to have reliable uh, mobile network, but also internet network connectivity. If not, I'm not able to pay. That's why I think that stepping back a little bit, we're going to see cash for a long time. Uh, I don't need to worry about connectivity with cash. Cash is free for merchants. I don't need to pay if I'm a merchant accepting a cash payment. I don't need to pay anything. I don't need to pay a fee to a provider, a financial service provider. It settles instantly. I don't need to wait until next day in order to get the funds. So I think that we are going to see cash mostly in emerging economies for a long time. However, I think that UPI, Pix, mobile money, they're helping a lot in terms of again transitioning to a cashless economy, and also payments is the entry point of the formal financial system. So if you have an account, if you have a bank account, you probably have a debit card. You will make a payment with a debit card. If you have a wallet, you will do a QR code payment. You do a money transfer. But that also start that information can be used for uh, credit reporting purposes. So basically, and we are seeing this in open finance, is how the payments behavior and alternative data is being used in order to build an alternative credit scoring that eventually would promote the access to credit. And this is not only consumer credit, it's also SME lending, where I think that there is still a huge gap. There is data out there actually quantifying what is the SME finance gap, which is significant. So I think that also in terms of digitalization and and the use of payments, it could help as well in terms of credit. It could help as well in terms of a saving product. The same with insurance and other financial services.
Amazing. So, do you think having a country that has fast payment systems and or digital payment systems slash digital currencies uh, are more likely to build open finance frameworks and ecosystems? Or do you think there's some correlation there?
That is a very interesting question. What I'm seeing is actually the countries that they have, for example, a fast payment system. They're also working on open finance. Going to India, we have, first of all, going back to this concept of DPI, digital public infrastructure. That is not new. We are in 2025, and I think that it was 2009 where actually Aadhaar was launched. The first layer of DPI identity, basically billions of or millions of Indians, they didn't have an identity. So basically, they were not visible, uh, not only to the government, but they were not able to open up a bank account. They were not able to get credit. So I think that having resolved or making a lot of progress with identity, that would give you the possibility of again open up an account, then have basically an instrument in order to make a payment. That could be again a debit card. It could be like a wallet, and there's where we have seen all the developments with UPI, which is as we were saying before, adopted by 40% of the adult population in India, and it's one of the examples of fast payment systems globally, together with PIX, I would say, and mobile money. I think that open finance is the third layer of DPI, and actually, I think that going back to the Indian context, I think that open the data that I have seen right now is that open finance is helping a lot with access to credit, uh, and then there is a lot of potential regarding insurance, regarding investment products or saving products such as money market funds, for example. So I think that we are going to see a lot in the next couple of years. I think that still is in a very early stage of development. I think that also the data that I have seen is 20% of the Indian adult population is already adopting open finance. I think that maybe it could very not very easily, but my expectation is actually that it could replicate UPA in terms of adoption. So it could get to this 40% very easily. Then it would be also um, a question on what are the actions, concrete actions that needs to happen in order to get to the other 60%, um, which could take some time, but I think that is going to we're going to get there.
Absolutely. So, just to share some numbers, we have close to about 800 million smartphone users in India. There are about 800 odd financial institutions connected to account aggregator ecosystem. Uh, the amount of credit in dollar terms that flows through the ecosystem is about $1.5 billion a month, close to 18 billion to $20 billion a year already. And these numbers have just taken off hockey stick manner since 2023. We did a report called GoFar, the Global Open Finance Adoption Report, and released that in December of 24. Our study shows that there will be at least 500 million, if not more, users of open finance by 2030 in India. And that number is going to grow even further as smartphone usage grows
Mm.
up, the GDP per capita grows in India, and so on and so forth. So, extremely bullish about open finance in India. And, that's the base on which Sahamati Labs was built,
Mm.
right? So, the hard work has been done, the framework has been built, the ecosystem has been built. Now the whole thing is, how do you scale this beyond where it is? That's the first part. The second thing is, how do you solve for problems in
Mm.
the ecosystem? and how do you bridge gaps. So like, for example, about 14% of MSMEs, just 14% of MSMEs have access to credit in India, right? So there's a huge gap that needs to be filled, which is going to add to India's GDP overall,
Mm.
right? The second part is that as the ecosystem grows, we're going to start seeing fraud and other
Mm.
activities, which undesirable activities that are going to grow in the ecosystem as well. So these are the areas that we started
Mm.
focusing on and saying, how do we scale the ecosystem? Which is where we started building out a conversational
Mm.
interface to enable people to use voice in Indian languages to understand how they could access credit and how they could access credit through the account aggregator ecosystem. The second part was we started building out a program called IKEA, which means oneness in Sanskrit, which is about solving fraud at an ecosystem level. So essentially, all the participants in the ecosystem come together in some form, share data, and try and prevent and mitigate fraud from the ecosystem. So, just to give you some numbers, there are about, I think, in Indian terms, it's about 33,000 crores. And I think if you were to convert that to billions, probably about 330 billion rupees of losses were incurred due to loan fraud. And that is 92% of the total fraud that happens in just 1 year. So that's an area that the ecosystem also wanted to sort of solve, and we got started on that. And I'm super excited about the fact that we're finding a solution that is being acceptable to all players, all the participants in the ecosystem. And the third part is, the most exciting part for uh, the people like you is the cross-border data portability, right? So how do we sort of connect open finance ecosystems between countries? How can India's open finance ecosystem connect to that in the UK, in the UAE, Brazil, and the US? Can a NRI sitting in the US get a home loan in India using the financial data in the US, right? So these are the kind of projects that we're working on, and you know, I'm hoping that the ecosystem benefits from these activities in India and globally as well. And people, consumers, businesses, trade finance solutions can all evolve, yeah, with these connectivity between open finance ecosystems globally.
Yeah, this is really interesting, very promising. I think that what I'm getting from you is a lot of focus on fraud mitigation, then how you can expand the ecosystem with a conversational interface tool that is for onboarding purposes, but also for claims handling purposes. But I'm very interested to hear more about your thoughts about the cross-border piece. If you can elaborate, you mentioned a couple of use cases. You mentioned, for example, trade finance. The latest data that I have seen is there is still a global trade finance gap of, I think that it amounts to 2.5 trillions USD. So there's still a huge gap. So I'm interested to hear more about this. What is the approach that you are taking? And yeah, what do you think that could be the impact not only for open finance, but as you mentioned before, for people in terms of financial inclusion, access, usage?
I think the impact for small and medium enterprises, SMEs, is going to be humongous. The amount of time that it takes to process your documentation is going to probably be halved by connecting these open finance ecosystems together. So the documentation, which is, I think 80% of it is still about it's still paper based and manual, is going to drop down quite significantly as we start connecting these open finance ecosystems together. It will enable banks to share information more faster. It will enable the digitization of letters of credit, for instance. If you're using shipping, for example, you could digitize the bill of lading, and you could actually share that in digital forms in real time. I mean, after all, the promise of open finance is real time movement of
Mm.
data using the user's consent. And I think that with that promise of open finance, it can really change trade finance globally quite significantly. So that's my take on the trade finance angle. So having talked about this, and we're talking about trade finance,
Hmm.
let me come to the next topic that you have looked at as well,
Hmm.
and that is the story of the stable coins. When you talk about trade finance and you're talking about money moving around, what do you think of stable coins?
Yeah, very trendy topic, right? With everything that is going on in the U.S. in terms of the regulatory developments, the Genius Act that actually provides more clarity on stable coins. I think that we're still in a very early stage of development. I think that stablecoins, for example, they can help reduce the cost of cross-border payments. So we were talking about cross-border. I think that on the payment side, stablecoins can help reducing this cost and also the speed. So it's not only about cost but also speed. So basically, settlement of transactions. Uh, but still, I think that we are in a very early stage of development. I think that then we will see other kind of initiatives that actually, in terms of cross-border and also cross-border payments, that would be very interesting to see how they develop. One is, for example, Project Nexus from that right now. It was a project that started with the BIS and now is in the implementation phase with a separate entity that is being created to implement Nexus. That mainly is connecting domestic fast payment systems. So if I'm here in India and I want to send money to someone in Malaysia or in Singapore or the other way around. So I'm an Indian living in Singapore and I want to send money to someone in India. I can eventually use the rails of UPI and the fast payment system in Singapore just to do the cross border transfer very affordable and very fast. So let's see how it goes. And since we're talking about open finance, another one from the BAS that is really interesting, let's see how it goes, is Aperta. That is also another project that tries to connect domestic open finance infrastructures globally. And so yeah, that is very promising as well. So yeah, let's see how it goes.
So let me just go back to the point of the stable coins. And literally every bank, there are private entities now who are releasing their own stable coins. And how do you make them interoperable? How will they work with each other? So let's say Bank A releases their stable coins and Bank B releases their stable coins. How do you make them to work together? I mean,
That is a really good question. I think that um, it's the same as banks or digital wallets issuing e-money. So basically, how it works is I'm a commercial bank. I issue commercial money, and then I'm using the rails of the system just to um, make sure that there is interoperability. This is an open loop system. So I think that it's not that much on the stablecoin issuance, I think, from the banks. It's more on the infrastructure level, making sure that actually the blockchains that are being used for issuing stablecoins are connected to each other. Not only connected to each other, but also connected to uh, other infrastructures, for example, UPI. So you can make a transfer from basically a stablecoin wallet to a UPI wallet without any friction, and this would apply also to CBDCs. So Right now, the rupee is also being pilot using the underlying technologies is the blockchain. But we need to make sure that actually I can, with my CBC wallet that I have an rupee, I can send money to a UPI account. Uh, and that actually an UPI account is actually a bank account or a digital wallet, and vice versa. The same with converting one to the other. So actually, if I have a stablecoin wallet, it should be really easy to convert that to cash or to a CBDC or to others. So yeah, I think that there is more, not that much on the bank's layer in a sense that they're issuing a stablecoin. Is more on the infrastructure level, making sure that all different kind of blockchains and also the fast payment systems. So basically UPI, for example, they're all connected each other just to have interoperability.
Very exciting. So, do you see stablecoin wallets coming into the open finance frameworks, being added to the open finance ecosystems?
Yeah, why not? I think that actually everything is going to complement. This is my personal view. Everything is going to, at some point, we're going to see all of them, and each one is going to complement the other. So any rupee is going to complement UPI. Eventually, a stablecoin is going to do the same. And basically, what this gives is also choices. So people will have different kind of choices. And for me, maybe what it works the most is a CBDC. For Kiran, maybe what it works the most for you is UPI, or maybe cash, or maybe stablecoins. And basically, you will have everything. What you need to make sure in terms of stablecoins is that a couple of things. One is the reserve requirements, making sure that if you're issuing a stablecoin, is backed by fiat or short-term government. So basically, liquid assets. So that is very important. Also, that there are custody arrangements as well. So basically, we don't want to get to another FTX situation. So that is also very very important. But I think that if my view is actually based on all the regulatory developments that we are seeing in different parts of the world, at some point we are going to have harmonization of regulations, and eventually we will have stable coins that they can look very similar than commercial money or e-money, um, but it's going to take some time. We need to make sure that actually we have harmonization of regulations. So actually we have, for example, as you know, in the EU MiCA, which was one of the first legal and regulatory frameworks for crypto. Now we have in the US the Genius Act. Is more focused on stable coins, but still we have also regulations in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in others, and many countries right now are working on a regulatory framework. We need to make sure that actually these are harmonized so we don't have fragmentation, and also standard setting bodies can play a role there. So basically FSP, IOSCO, FATF, CPMI, they can play a role there in terms of making sure that there is no fragmentation, and you have like global standards for stable coins regulation.
Yeah, I think that's very fascinating.
Mhm.
So, we have a world where you see in payments, for example, we have Nexus, which is connecting people, countries, through a very different payment system. We have the legacy systems of having players like Swift and so on who've been existing, and now we're looking at stable coins coming into play, and we're looking at open finance, and trying to connect open finance ecosystems globally, which is going to change the way business happens around the world. So, can all these systems coexist? do you think one is going to cannibalize on the other?
No, I think that going back to what we were discussing before, I think that each can complement the other, and again, it's great to see that people will have options. So depending on the use case, depending on the instrument and stuff, you will decide whether for you cash works the best, or that is UPI, if that is the rupee, if that is stable coins, if that is. So I think that you need, again, you need regulation just to make sure that um, you mitigate risks in terms of, again, talking about going back to stablecoins, reserve requirements, custody requirements, disclosure and transparency requirements. If you have all that, I think that yeah, one can complement the other. And again, for me, what it works the best is a CBDC. For you, is a stablecoin, and that is fine. So I think that, yeah, we are going to see that it's going to take some time. It's not going to be now, but it's going to take some time. But I think that is the end game, I would say.
Great. So let's go back to open finance for
Yes.
a second. Now that we spend all our time and effort in the space, the you've gone around the world. You looked at all these countries. You looked at Ghana. You looked at Nigeria, and I'm sure you considered other countries for your
Mm.
research as well. Where do you think open finance's uh, ecosystems are going to thrive? In which countries do you think
Hmm.
it'll really take off?
I think that is a really good question. This is my personal view. I don't have yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but what I'm seeing here in India is mind blowing. The data in terms of the usage. I think that open finance is going to work in if there is a need for the market. So I think that in emerging economies there is a huge SME finance gap, for example. Uh, so I think that open finance can contribute to that. We're seeing this, for example, in India. Uh, so I think that emerging economies, that could be not only India or Brazil or Nigeria or Ghana, it could be others. I think that there is where there is a lot of potential. There's still a lot of challenges to be resolved. So in countries that everything is working very well, maybe the impact of open finance is low. But I think that mainly in emerging economies we're going to see that. Then we have again, it would all depend on the local context, but it would depend on the use case. You mentioned trade finance. That is something that actually could work in not only emerging economies but also advanced economies. So basically, yeah, money movement, exporters and importers selling goods and buying goods from different regions and countries. Well, I think that again, the problems that actually open finance is trying to address in terms of the use case of trade finance is something that is not limited to emerging economies. We can see that in many other advanced economies. So I'm really interested to see all the developments on basically what you mentioned of cross-border data portability and global open finance, and see how it goes, if this is feasible to do. Let's see. Um, let's see what are the challenges. I would presume that there will be, like, also going back to harmonization. You need to make sure that actually there are standards, and basically the sharing of data is harmonized and is standardized between all these countries. So that would take a lot of work, I would say. Uh, but again, I think that there is a problem to be solved. So open finance can be very helpful there.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. So
Mm.
will cross-border go with a as a with multilateral
Mm.
agreements on standardization and harmonization, or will they be bilaterals? I think
Mm.
that is going to be the key to watch out for. But our job at Labs is to experiment, to prototype, keep looking at opportunities, and see how we can build out exciting projects for the ecosystem and help them live in this fast changing financial world. Thank you, Gabriel, for a fascinating conversation. With that, this is a wrap, which brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you will watch this and future episodes of Manthan. Uh, with that, it's a goodbye from us.